Hello, everyone, and welcome to Real Conversations in the QC. I'm Redrick Terry. Thanks for being with us. On today's show, we're putting the focus on influential women in leadership in the Quad Cities. There are many of them today, something that unfortunately wasn't always the case. We're going to sit down with some of them who are doing important work in the nonprofit sector of our area. We'll learn about their journeys and why their work means so much to not only them, but the people they help every single day. We're going to start with Dr. Kit, a woman with a diverse background that is using her education and her talent to spread kindness and health to a group of women who need it most. Dr. Kit Evans Ford is a name that you've probably heard before here in the Quad Cities. Not only is she the founder of Argro's House, she is an educator, an author, a speaker, and we're so glad to have her here today to discuss her journey and what's led to where you've been so far. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So let's learn a little bit about that background. Mentioned a lot of different titles for you. Tell me what led to your work today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am the director of Argro's House, and also a new company that I started called Autistic in Love. So Argro's House, what led to creating Argro's House, we are a healing house for women in the Quad Cities, where women healing from abuse are able to live rent-free for a year. After that year, now we help them into first-time homebuyers programs, but we're also a bath and body business that employs them with Autistic and Loved. This was birthed out of my journey with my own children, so created sensory and oral motor resources and safe spaces for events for kids with autism and special needs. You know, what led me here was personal experience. You know, as a survivor of violence, and also seeing women in my family need certain resources with healing from abuse. You know, I really dedicated most of my adult life in school with researching and really working to figure out what would help women in healing from trauma. You know, with Autistic and Loved, you know, the experience is really birthed out of my son's journey, and really working to find resources and safe spaces for actually both my son and my daughter. You know, I settled here in the Quad Cities about 12 years ago. My husband, Reverend Dwight Ford, is from here, and he moved back. You know, I was coming from Orlando, Florida, before that California and the Caribbean. So, you know, never in a million years would I have thought I had landed here in the Quad Cities, but it's been such a gift. You know, the community has really rallied around both Argro's House and Autistic and Loved. You know, I'm what you call a social entrepreneur. So I create businesses that employ marginalized populations, but also much of that profit, all of that profit goes back to serve that particular marginalized community. And so the Quad Cities community has rallied around us over the years, and we've been able to serve and help hundreds of women and children, and I'm incredibly grateful for that.
Yeah, and you know, you talked about how kind of these projects that you've worked on and that you've cultivated so far come from personal experience, and something that certainly a lot of people experience in their lifetime. What does it mean to be able to turn that experience into something helpful for people going through similar situations?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it means the world to me. You know, it's part of what I do as far as work and vocation, because I'm a community development worker and a chaplain and a theologian by training. I used to teach theology at St. Ambrose, and used to be a chaplain for Genesis. But for me, it means that, you know, I am doing my soul's work. I am grateful to God that I am doing what I've been put on the planet to do, and to see that the work is actually healing for me as a survivor of violence, but also as one who journeys with their children every single day who have autism spectrum disorder. But seeing the women and children that we serve, seeing our kids in Argro's House grow up to be successful, seeing our women you know, continue on their healing journey and get the jobs that they want, the homes that they desire, and thrive and move forward in healthy relationships years later. You know, it's a gift and a blessing to see the joy on the kids with autism faces who come to our sensory friendly events. I mean, it's really a gift, and it just affirms to me that that we're doing good work. You know, sometimes it takes in order to start an organization, grow an organization, build an organization that's really grounded in community. It takes sacrifice. Yep. You know, it takes time. It takes really building relationships to establish trust. right? I mean, there are a lot of positive things, but then also there's the reality of burnout, there's the reality of sometimes people not liking me, but then there's the good always overpowers any type of bad. Love always overpowers any type of evil or hurt or pain. And I think that because we really focus to really share, for me, the love of God with other people, that things are continuing to move forward and grow and thrive. So I'm incredibly grateful for that.
Yeah. And speaking of growing and moving forward, we're talking obviously about women in leadership roles, and that's something that we see a lot more of, right? That's something that we see a lot more of, and unfortunately that wasn't always the case, but here you are as a living, breathing example of that. Tell me about that journey and what that's been like for you, getting to a place where women historically weren't seen in terms of leadership roles.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I come from a small town in North Carolina called Mebane. I grew up, we had dirt roads and a couple of stoplights. Now we have an outlet mall, which is something unique and never thought in a million years, but we're very close to Chapel Hill, Durham, Raleigh, and so the area is developing. But I say all that to say that contextually, women in my family were very limited. I'm from the South, and so my grandmother, only was able to get a certain level of education in the midst of segregation. Even in the church where she served, she was only able to have certain leadership roles or certain community roles and not leadership based on her gender. And so, I saw that, and I saw those restrictions for the women in my family, even though they were bold leaders sharing love in incredible ways. For me, I was blessed with the gift of education. Education was my way out of a cycle of violence within my family. Education was a way out of poverty. And so, I committed to my journey with education. And then the love that comes from my family, it really, really set a foundation for me being able to move forward as a leader, as a woman leader. I think for me, being a woman leader, it's taken... it takes time. I am a tree hugger. I pray God of love, God of peace. My journey has really humbled me because I'm a survivor of an extremely violent crime. When I was a Peace Corps volunteer, I was assaulted, so I had my own journey with post-traumatic stress disorder and other things. And then I'm an autism parent. And so every single day I am humbled working and fighting to find the resources that my daughter and my son needs. So every single day I am humbled because I am living, very similar realities as the people that I serve. And so that keeps me very humble. But I also have a husband who's very supportive. His name is Reverend Dwight Ford. Shout out, Rev. I appreciate you. There's something about, having a partner that believes in what you do and what you say. I have all these random ideas. I'm like, oh, let's start this house. Let's make soap. At the time, I'm a professor. He's like, okay, let's do it. I'm like, oh, let's invent this chewable jewelry for kids with autism and sensory processing disorder and put Justice's face on it. Okay, let's do it. It sounds totally random. But, the way that I see the world in color, and I'm always thinking and creating, and he's never in a million years told me, no, don't do it. That's a terrible idea. Every idea I have, he affirms it, and he even if it fails, he tries it with me. And to have a life partner like that really believes in you, it really makes me want to do better as a leader, and also believe in myself even more as a leader. So iron sharpens iron, and I'm grateful to have a partner that encourages me in that way.
Certainly.
Yeah.
So when it comes to, as we mentioned, kind of taking those personal experiences, turning them into fantastic opportunities for not only yourself, but for many of people that you're helping in this community, you can almost feel that there are people out there watching who are wanting to do the same thing, trying to figure out how do they take their personal experiences, turn them into positive, turn them into good for the community. Mm-hmm. What's your piece of advice to those people who are trying to find that way?
Yeah. I would say, don't give up. I would say first and foremost, take care of yourself. There's healing is a journey, regardless of what you're going through. And so, get the resources that you need either in your community, in your church, in your family, so that you have safe spaces to just share and reflect. But I will also say write down your goals, write down those ideas that come to mind, put them on paper, and then there are resources in our community like SCORE, the Small Business Administration and other places that literally still continue to help me with my business ideas. Tom Trone, shout out to Tom. He's a mentor to so many businesses in the area and continues to journey with me every step of the way. So there are organizations and resources in our community that are free that can help you take your idea and move things forward and grow it, even if we have $1 connected to those resources or that idea. And so I say write it down, make it plain. Go to these trusted organizations that can help you with growing your idea, and don't give up. If God has put something in your soul and your heart to do, just take it one step at a time. You'll develop relationships, you'll develop trusted partners and others who will support your vision. But it takes endurance, it takes grit, to grow an organization, to grow a business. But I would say write it down, be clear, come up with a business plan, but use resources like SCORE, Small Business Administration, and other programs in the area to help you with growing that vision.
Yep, great advice, and a great person giving that advice,
Thank
Dr.
you,
Kidford.
Thank
you
you,
so
Redrick.
much
Thank
for everything
you.
that you do, and thank you for
appreciate
everything,
it.
and thanks for being here with us today.
It's been a delight. Thank you.
Perfect. Our next influential woman is once again doing work in spaces that traditionally did not see much representation. We're talking about the sport of golf and the work being done to introduce the game and life skills to young women not only here, but all across the country. For that conversation, here's Tim Stinson.
This is a special moment for myself. I have an opportunity to speak with someone today and share that information with you, a good friend of mine. Hopefully she feels the same way. But Tiffany Mack Fitzgerald, who is the founder and CEO of Black Girls Golf. And I know right now she currently resides down in the Atlanta, Georgia area. But we have this opportunity to talk to her. I'm so excited to talk to you, Tiff. So before I start, I am going to say Happy Valentine's Day to you.
Well, thank you. Happy Valentine's Day to you. And I'm excited to be here too. It's been a long time since I've really engaged with anyone in the Quad Cities. So this is going to be fun.
Well, I'm glad you get to engage with me. So we have I really want a lot of people I know in the Quad Cities, and we've talked about what Real Conversations is all about, Black conversations within the Quad City area. And when I was talking to you about that, I know a lot of people in the Quad Cities might know who you are. They do know who you are, but there might be some that do not. They don't know the background. They don't know the history of yourself as well as Black Girls Golf. We're going to touch on that today. And I'm also towards the end, we're going to talk a little bit about now that you're an author now and you have your new book out there. So I want to speak on that a little bit as well. So I'm excited to hear a little bit about that. But the last time, Tiffany, that we had a chance to talk, I know we were having lunch, and the thing that I really enjoyed about having that conversation with you was that entrepreneurial spirit that you had and a lot of the ideas that you had that you were talking about. And after that conversation, I believe that's when soon after you kind of moved away, and I know you started a podcast. You were on the podcast. And then I happened to look up and I see Black Girls Golf. So I want to start with Black Girls Golf. What sparked that idea for Black Girls Golf? Talk to me about that. Share a little bit about the journey.
It's funny. I do remember sharing a lot of the ideas I had. I've always kind of had an entrepreneurial spirit. But the idea for Black Girls Golf was born in the Quad Cities. It was just something that was just kind of gnawing at me. It was stuck in the back of my head. It wasn't Black Girls Golf then, right? Mm-hmm. It was just this idea that, Black women needed a way to get into the game. And I didn't know of any spaces or any organizations where I could access information or resources, or even just connecting with the community that I could, tap into and find people to play golf with. Mm-hmm. But the idea was born in the Quad Cities, and it was just me and a few of my friends. We would get together at Red Hawk Golf Course. And I don't know if you know about that course, but it's a public course. It's got a little three-hole par three that you can pay and go around as many times as you would like. And I had taken some golf lessons, and I just used to invite my friends out, and we would go around and have a good time and swap stories, and it was fun. And I knew that Black women needed something like that, where they felt like they were playing with their friends. And thought about it. I relocated to the Atlanta area in July of 2012.
Okay.
And I was like, I really don't have anything to lose. All right. I'm not tied to a corporate job. So let me give it 100% of my effort. And that's what I did.
That's wonderful. And I know your effort, your 100% is more than 100%. So, I mean, that worked. You know, and Black Girls Golf, like you said, 2012. So it's been around for a while and things. So how have you seen it grow and change, you know, since the beginning? You know, talk about some of the movements and achievements that you've seen.
So it's funny. People think there's this magical story about how I had this plan, and I literally put a post on Facebook that said, "Who wants to learn how to play golf?" And 26 women showed up. Like,
Wow.
that's the story. Like, it's not some magical thing that happened. I think the magic happened probably around year 3 or 4.
Hmm.
After lots of tears about, Tiffany, you are crazy. Why are you doing this? You got to eat.
Right.
Um, but when the women started building community amongst themselves, that that's the magic sauce, right? It's
Right.
the golf is kind of secondary, honestly. Um, the community of women who came together and who connect with each other on the golf course. I think one of our very first group clinics, there was like 5 women in the clinic. 3 of them became friends, and that summer traveled together. So beautiful friendships, lots of great networking. Um, Everybody knows networking happens on the golf course, but I think with Black Girls Golf, what's magical about that is it's with like-minded people, right? People you
Right.
don't have to explain your existence to, right? If I show up and my hair is different, it's not going to be a big deal. We're not going to have a whole conversation about why my hair is different.
Okay.
You know, Black people or Black women, and I'll speak for myself, um, showing up in a space where you have to measure who you are, how you speak, how you dress, how you wear your hair against the environment that is considered normal, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Black Girls Golf is a space where you don't have to do that. And I think that's the magical part.
I love that. Love that. And, you know, we know golf, you know, traditional golf has been a male dominant, exclusive sport, basically, and things. And you kind of touched on a little bit, but how do you believe Black Girls Golf, is making strides, have made the strides, bringing more diversity and inclusivity to the golf scene?
So, really, the murder of George Floyd sparked this national reckoning, right?
Hmm.
And the golf industry, it's kind of like waking a sleeping giant. I think that was the first time they really understood that Black people and how we show up in the world is very different. And the things that happen in the world impact how we show up in it. And it was after the murder of George Floyd that the industry began to pay closer attention to their role in what was happening in the world, or their absence from it, right?
Right.
That kind of hands-off approach that doesn't happen in our neighborhood, so we're just not going to talk about it. I think that forced everyone to talk about it. And when organizations were looking for um, someone Black to connect to in golf, we are very few and far between. Like, I'm not the only group out here, but I think the name strategically made it easy to find.
Right.
And it was through lots of conversations and collaboration, um, that I think was a very pivotal point for Black Girls Golf. I think earning some credibility, where I had been in the game like 8 years at that point, and they could see the track record, how much we had done, how many clinics, how many women we had served. And I finally had a seat at the table after that, where I was sitting on diversity task forces, having high level conversations about diversity and what golf was doing, and the role golf should be playing. And I'm really proud of the fact that I stuck to it and I did the work. Um, it was hard, right? Because
Right.
people were like, "Oh, look at the cute little black girl doing a little black thing." But it was at the point that I got a seat at the table that people started to listen to my voice, and I knew that I was speaking for the thousands of women that Black Girls Golf represents, and I had to be able to have something to say that was going to bring value to the industry. But I had to be honest too. If I wanted the industry to change, I had to tell the truth, and I wanted to be a truth teller. And that was at the point that Black Girls Golf became a bridge, where Black women were learning more about the industry, and the industry was willing to learn more about us.
Okay. I know following you too myself, through social media or whatever it may be, or seeing some of the news reports that are being done. And notice you have been traveling a lot, and a lot of clinics, trying to keep up with that all over the place and things. And you touched a little bit on this too, but challenges, it hasn't been, we can look from 2012 to now, and it's, it seems from the outside everything's great. There's no challenges. What's speak a little more on some of those major challenges, and what kept you going? What keeps that drive?
It is. It's been very challenging. I mean, just being an entrepreneur alone is tough, right? But then I chose to do it in an industry that doesn't have the best history when it comes to Black people. Um, I think the biggest challenge for me was overcoming the self-doubt and understanding. I'm trying to tell these women we do have a place here, but I'm being treated like we don't. And that for me was really the biggest challenge, is overcoming the doubt and feeling like I belonged at these tables I was now being invited to. I mean, I was getting hate mail. Um, Anytime something aired nationally, my email was going to light up with somebody telling me I was the racist one, or calling me a jigaboo. Like, I could go on and on
Right.
about the hate mail that I even still receive today, but that kind of fuels me. The first email I got, like, was a gut punch. I cried, and I'm not a crier, but I was just so offended and so disappointed and so hurt that someone thought I was trying to harm the industry. And now, 11 years, 12 years into the game, like, the hate mail is what fuels me,
Okay.
honestly. It is the reminder that I need that what I'm doing is very necessary.
Yes.
And then on the flip side of that, when I go somewhere and some woman that I don't know approaches me and says, "I started playing golf because of you." That doesn't happen a lot, but it's happened enough that I feel very, very proud of that. And
Yes.
whenever I want to quit, I have to remember, like, somebody's going to start playing golf because of you. And I know that golf can be um, a pathway to leadership for Black women. It can be a pathway to connection and positioning yourself around people who have influence and power. Really, that can change the trajectory of your life. And so I know that golf has the power to change someone's life just because of the relationships you can build through golf. And if I can be responsible for introducing a Black woman or a Black girl to that, I got to keep going.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And we know that when Black community, yourself, Black women, Black men start making strides, there is some hate there that comes at you. But I have to say there has to be a lot of positive that women have looked up. I mean, they're looking up to you. Young girls are looking up to you. They're seeing what you're achieving, and they realize I can achieve the same thing. So I'm sure you're getting those accolades as well, where women have said that, hey, thank you for doing this. Thanks for helping us out, showing us how we can get there.
Right. It is extremely rewarding. Some of the people that I've had the opportunity to meet, um, it's been an amazing ride. The challenges, yes, you're going to face challenges with anything, but the rewards have been remarkable. And the people that I meet, the women that I'm able to connect with have been amazing. And I don't want to throw darts at the industry, right? Because I have some amazing partners now that are helping me achieve some of the successes that I have. And if it wasn't for some of these partners, a lot of the stuff that I'm doing would not be possible.
I understand. Someone for, Tiffany, for someone new to golf, thinking about getting started, I'm not new, I've started. I'm going to reach out to you because next time you're coming back to the Quad Cities, you're going to help my game a little bit. We're going to get together here.
Okay.
But what friendly advice would you give that person that, the young generation, the my age generation, black women, black men, anybody who's looking to get into golf, as far as, making it accessible and enjoyable for them, what would you share with them?
I would say just get started, right? Start where you are. You can find a lot of programs out there that don't require you to have all the special golf gear. Like the Black Girls Golf classes, you're not required to have golf clubs. We provide those for everyone. There are programs that will meet you where you are. And for anyone who wants to play, take lessons from a professional. There are so many people out there who think they can give you a golf lesson. Please, please, please find a PGA or an LPGA professional to take lessons from. It will lay the foundation I mean, any sport, you got to have a foundation of the technical skill that's involved and the mechanics. Please do that first. And golf can be fun. So find people that you enjoy being around, and you'll enjoy the game more if you do that. So find people to play with and find a professional to start lessons.
Wonderful. A couple more questions before we let you get back to your busy day, because I know you're moving quickly here and stuff. But for those who are interested in, want to learn more about Black Girls Golf, I want to see, where are the events happening? How can I touch Black Girls Golf? Give us some information on that.
So this is a weird time for me to be giving you the website, right? It's blackgirlsgolf.net. But we are going through a website redesign. I'm really excited about it. This is a year of scale for us. We'll be launching new chapters across the country this year, and the website's going to be a big part of that. So right now, when you visit the website, all you can do is sign up. All you can do is get on our email list, and we'll be announcing a lot of our upcoming exciting things this year via our email database, which is now over 7,000 people.
Awesome. So we talked about at the beginning now that you are an author now. So when did this book drop? And the name of the book is Playing from the Rough. Where did the title come from? We can kind of figure that out, but want to hear from you. Talk about the book. Talk about that experience.
So I didn't write a book to sell a book. I know that sounds really crazy, but I wrote a book because I felt like I needed something tangible that helped me become an expert in the space. That's why I did it. I wanted to get some credibility in the space. But I participated in a Georgetown University project where there's a professor that does a corporate partnership that helps people publish books. And I got accepted into the program, and I was just going to write a quick how to get into golf book. It was going to be a no-brainer. Let me tell you what I know in this book. And the more I talked to the publisher was like, no, Tiffany, you've got a better story to tell. So the story evolved from being kind of a how to get into golf book to becoming a short jog through my life, where I tell a few stories from my childhood, which was pretty challenging, that helps people understand that the challenges you face in life can help you, right? They shape who you are, but they also help you. And some of the challenges I faced in childhood helped me with some of the obstacles I would have to clear, building Black Girls Golf and being this Black woman in this very white male-dominated industry. So I tell some of those stories. I tell some funny stories about when I got into golf. And Playing from the Rough, I feel like it's kind of self-explanatory. Like I had a rough start, and I had to make lemonade, you know.
Right.
And I just want people to know that coming from where I come from, where you come from doesn't have to define you. It also doesn't have to be a straight path to where you end up, right? Like you can take a detour. Sometimes detours are good. Like
That's true.
who knew this little black girl from Oakland would end up running a business in the golf industry? That was so far out of my realm of experience.
I would encourage everybody to pick up this book because, like I said, we are friends from way back, and I've heard your story, and we didn't have time today to get all into that because I think that's very interesting where you came from, where you're at now, and like I said, the challenges and the walks that you did to get where you're at. So I would definitely encourage everybody to pick this up, read it, and but I'm gonna get mine autograph signed from you. So
Of course.
but
Of course.
this has been great. Real conversations. This is what it's all about. You know, talking to Tiffany Mack Fitzgerald. I love to say Tiffany Mack Fitzgerald, but powerful, you know, woman in an industry that's usually male dominated, white dominated, and it's just wonderful to see what you're doing. And is there anything else that you would like to leave us with before we move on?
I just want to say thank you so much for having these conversations. I think they're important. Whenever I am speaking to corporate entities, they always ask me, "Well, what books can we read? What can you tell us, you know, that we can go and find about the Black experience?" But I think there's nothing better than having real conversations with real people if you want to understand. So thank you so much for doing this. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Tiff. We'll talk to you later.
All right, thank you.
We continue conversations with women who are leading the ongoing efforts to give back to the Quad Cities community. And our next guest is leading that effort in the area that she was born and raised in, Rock Island. Linda Sargent joins us now to talk about her journey and her work today as founder and president CEO of Heart of Hope Ministries. Linda, thanks so much for being with us today.
I'm honored to be here.
Thank you so much. Well, let's start about your background, as we were just talking about it before we went on. You got a very interesting background. Tell us about that and how this all came to be somebody who's doing work in the Quad Cities who is from the Quad Cities originally.
Yep. Well, I'm proud to be from Rock Island. The furthest I ever got away, I lived in Milan for 4 years, but I grew up in the West End neighborhoods of Rock Island and actually knew your family. We're school friends, your grandmother and I. And so through those years, was able then to graduate from Rock Island High School and then go on to Augustana College for a while and studied there, and then ended up actually getting my degree in accounting, though, from St. Ambrose. So just very proud to be a part of Rock Island and to have come from the West End.
Yes, and now giving back to not only that area of Rock Island, but people in the Quad Cities through Heart of Hope Ministries. Talk about that and how that came to be.
Wow, well, that is kind of a long story.
Yeah.
I grew up, I said, like in the West End of Rock Island, and I grew up at a time where the community was very prosperous, where families took care of each other and their properties. There were businesses. I could walk to grocery stores, 4 or 5 of them. And I love to tell people right where the Martin Luther King Center sits now, there was a movie theater called the Rialto. So there were grocery stores, there were laundromats, bakeries, everything a community needed. And it began to trouble my heart as through my education and through marriage, I was able to leave and again staying in Rock Island, but had a more prosperous background, nicer homes up on the hill in Rock Island and that type thing. And to see the community that I grew up in begin to deteriorate, to see young people no longer have passions to improve their lives and seemingly had very few options to do so. So through different situations that took place in my life that were very hard, I ended up, through God's leading, going back to that little house on 612 6th Street to take care of my grandmother and her last years. And so while I was there, those 7 years were the hardest years. I tell people it's like going to the mission field without going to the mission field. So many things had changed, and it was very hard hearing gunshots at night, seeing a little boy across the street they called nickel bag and seeing him arrested, seeing things and it began to trouble my heart. And I believe that was God's doing. He was then preparing me through those 7 years to have a heart and to have compassion for my people and want to do something about that. Didn't know what. But I started serving in the community, different other nonprofits, was going into Rock Island County Jail, having Bible study, and then ended up getting kind of discouraged about some things, and I felt the Lord say to me, well, Linda, when are you going to do what I told you to do? And He gave me the name, Heart of Hope Ministries. So I knew I was supposed to do something, and it was called Heart of Hope Ministries. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then from there, it actually, a friend of mine that you've had interviewed here before, Cynthia Green, her and her husband had come January 1st, 2009 to my home, and they brought me a little plaque, and the plaque said, the will of God will never take you where the grace of God cannot keep you. And I thought, oh, that's a nice little gift. I had no idea what God was saying. So we prayed in my home before they left, and I felt God say to me, launch into the deep. And I was like, okay, I don't know what that means, but I know launch is an action word.
Yeah.
So began meeting with people in my home, 5 people to begin with, and we started praying. And from that time on, in May of 2009, we now have 3 buildings. We have a wonderful ministry, food pantry, clothing ministry. We have youth programs, and we have a home we've renovated adjacent to our property for men who have been incarcerated. And we're currently renovating a little building on 9th Street and 18th Avenue. That will be a little community outreach center. We're working with community health care, and so lots of things happening.
Yes, lots of fantastic things. And obviously you being in the forefront of all of that, leading that charge, and after your career, as you mentioned, as an accountant, so you've been in this position of leadership for a very long time now. Talk to me about what that's been like, what your experience is like, especially as a woman of color in a position of power, something that hasn't always been the case in recent history.
Yeah, for me it's just been a step-by-step process. I didn't wake up one day and think, I think I'll start a nonprofit, you know. I did work as an accountant for 24 years for what was Trinity Medical Center, that is now Unity Point Health in Rock Island. And so I took a bold leap of faith at age 60, and I decided this thing was a passion of mine. I knew it was something I was to do for the Lord, and so I retired early to really begin leading this. And I saw God actually literally order my steps as I took a woman I'd met years before at the Rock Island County Jail. I took her to Robert Young Center, trying to get her admitted for long-term care for alcoholism. And because I had worked at the hospital, the property manager had, when she was planning to renovate 7 of the waiting rooms, had asked me, she knew what I was doing with Heart of Hope, and so she said, Linda, do you want any furniture? And I didn't have a building to put it in or nothing, but I said yes. And so I had furniture in my basement, in my back porch, in my garage, and I was able to give it to people in need and work with you know, some other agencies to help with that. So had all this furniture, no building, and then the Lord had put on my heart to write this letter to my grandmother's physician, Dr. Myron Fields, and 2 years ago, before this event, but as I'm leaving Robert Young Center in that courtyard, I run into this lady who was the property manager, and she says, Linda, do you have a building yet? I said, no, not yet. And so 2 weeks later, Dr. Myron Fields happened to call the hospital, asked them if they were interested in his building, which had been vacant for over 10 years, and a beautiful brick building, and so had been in some need of updates and repairs, but anyway, very solid and ready for use. So anyway, Mary says to Dr. Fields, well, the hospital could not use it, but do you know Linda Sargent? And he said, yes, I know Linda. And she gave him my numbers, and so I ended up, I was walking at Sunset Park. He calls me and says, well, I understand you're looking for a building, and we met the next day. I told him we were black and white and Hispanic, and we all loved God and wanted to serve people. And he says, well, now you're going to get a building from a Jew.
Wow.
So that's how we got Heart of Hope, and from there we did the work we needed to get the building ready, and in May of 2014 we started our food pantry.
That's inspiring. Such an inspiring story, and you know, everything that you've been through to this point is very inspiring, and you know that there are people out there that have an idea, think about something that they can do to help and what they want to do to give back to their communities, similar to what you've been doing over the years. So for those people out there who are still trying to find that way, what's your piece of advice to them?
We're there. We need you. We need volunteers. We need people that, maybe they don't have the time or ability to actually give of their time as volunteering, but always need resources. You know, we can't do what we do unless we have people that support us financially. And so we welcome you. We're going to have a trivia night fundraiser on March 8th. So that'll be at the Holiday Inn in Rock Island, and it'll start at 6 o'clock. So that'll be an opportunity for you to come and get to know us and be a part of us too. But anytime, we're located at 1740 9th Avenue in Rock Island. And please look at our website or give us a phone call. We'd love to talk.
Yep, and we'll have that information available as well. Linda Sargent, thanks so much for being here. Yeah. Thanks for telling your time, telling your story, and being with us today.
All right, well, thank you.
Up next, we're going to take a generational approach to the conversation. We're talking with a local mother and daughter about what they've seen as black women from generation to generation in their family and in society, and the experiences that have made them into the strong women they are today. Jasmine Butler leads that conversation.
Today I have Angel Thomas and Alicia Haynes, who are mother-daughter duo today. So we're going to be talking about the black woman experience and expectations in your family and in society as well. So let's get to it. So let's talk about the women in your family. If you can describe them in 3 words, what would those words be?
Opinionated, honest, resourceful.
Hmm?
Powerful, sassy, and beautiful.
And beautiful. I love it. Growing up, tell me what it was like to be a black woman and what specific general expectations you had in your family and in society, and how does that still apply to your life today?
So growing up in my home, I was able to have multiple experiences, and I was taught to be resourceful. I did a lot of different activities and got to find the things that I really like to do. And I wasn't really confined to those limitations. My mom always instilled in me that it was important to have experiences and find your way in life. And that was something I was able to do in the house that I grew up in. And in society, you know, you have all of these expectations within, you know, your friend groups or in, you know, other public places like school to be a certain way, to speak a certain way, to talk a certain way. You know, if not, you're judged. And it always seemed like the boys growing up they weren't really held to that same standard. So that was a little bit hard. And, you know, as I got older, I felt like things started to change over time and got better. And I feel like as far as the standard typical gender roles, we don't really have those as much where I'm at within the home that I grew up, well, the home that I have now. So, you know, we try to divide things up evenly amongst us and take turns making dinner. It's not usually all one-sided. So, you know, I tried to enforce a good balance so that way our son sees that as he's growing up and wants to contribute and learn different things and have those experiences for himself.
And then, so growing up, is that just a reflection of when you saw like grandma was a certain type of way and mom was totally different than grandma, or maybe very similar to grandma, and then you had auntie and cousins who were a mix of both, or one very like grandma, and it's like, you know what, I don't want to be like that. I don't really want to be like that. So I think it's beautiful. Yeah, you guys split everything and
Yes.
you have your piece.
Yes, I grew up with mostly my mom and my grandma, and they were both independent women who figured things out, and it inspired me to want to figure those things out. So that's just something I've held on to my whole life.
That's great. Thanks. What about you, Miss Alicia?
Now, growing up, I spent a lot of time with my mother and my grandmother was very old school female in that she was making my grandfather's lunch and ironing his clothes and getting everything ready for him. And he almost seemed helpless because she seemed to do everything for him and for the family. And then my mother was more independent. She would go out there and figure things out, do non-traditional things, build furniture. She was just that kind of a person. And I think that between the two of them, I mostly latched on to how my mother was. That just resonated more with me, to be more independent, to explore the world and, see things and not necessarily think I have to do this because I'm female or this because, I'm Black or whatnot. But I think that for Black women, there were certain expectations in society to look a certain way, to be a certain way, to have to carry yourself a certain way, to not be intimidating. So I think that still resonates today. I still think that a lot of times Black women are judged. We are in a place where we're expected to be strong, but then we're accused of being too masculine. And it's just it's interesting to see as the gender roles kind of, I don't want to say dissipate, but they're not as clearly defined as they were years ago, even 20 years ago, so that women that are like your age are able to do whatever you want, and there's not an expectation that you've done something outside of what was expected of you.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, because a lot of Black women now are in their soft girl era is what we're calling it, where we don't have to be so strong all the time. And even if, I am a single mom or just single or just, alone, I still have to be kind of tough, but then there's still a place for me to be very, very in my feminine soft girl era. So I love that we have that as Black women.
Yeah.
So how did you decide what to take and what to keep from each generation? Because you've seen your grandma and your mom, so that's two different generations. So what did you decide to keep and take?
I kept the ability to make choices freely. That was something that I admired about both of them. My grandma was a little bit more conservative, and I would say my mom was a little bit more unfiltered than her, but it has taught me to be open with how I think and share those thoughts with other people, and to know that there isn't a certain expectation that I have to have that society puts on everybody else. I can move freely in the world, and that's something that I took from her, and I try to live that way. I want to be able to look back on my life and know that I made every decision that suited me, and I didn't make those decisions with others' expectations in mind.
I think obviously I took the independence and rolled with it. I don't think that's ever going to, I think it's for future generations, every generation of our family. I think a level of independence will always be there. I was and have been less filtered than my mother was, but as I age, I can appreciate the reason why she was filtered. And sometimes the consequences of being a little bit less filtered have come back to bite me. So I can go back now. Before, I would say, no, I'm not, this is who I am. But now as I get older, I realize that there are times to be filtered and times to be unfiltered, and to learn how to navigate what time I'm in.
And understanding the whys too, on why your mom had to be a little bit more less filtered.
Yeah.
And then now you're just like, yeah. And then even, now with you, like, okay, just having that choice on, you know what, I don't care. I'm about to just say what's on my mind, and, or go back and being in your soft girl era and not letting anything bother you, right? So how do you acknowledge or accept the different perspectives from each generation? Because we all know that it's different perspectives, that whether it's the length of your skirt, or, if you have a slip-on underneath everything. How do you guys acknowledge that?
I think at this point in my life, being 30, I take it with a grain of salt. Other advice that other generations would give me as a millennial, because to me, this is my life and my choices, and I can move freely about the world. I don't judge other people for the length of their skirt or what clothes they want to wear or the career choices that they make or any decisions that they want to do in life. And I think that obviously as generations get older, you always have that advice that you want to give to the next generation. And there are times where I catch myself wanting to do that same thing. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I sound like my mom right now. Not in a bad way. It's a good thing. So, I catch myself doing those things and, I kind of just laugh. And now I'm seeing as I get older, I'm like, okay, so this is what the last generation was talking about. And this is what the generation before was talking about. It's the same thing. History tends to repeat itself through experiences. So, yeah.
I catch myself saying, oh my gosh, I sound just like my mom.
Mm-hmm. That's a good thing, though. I'm learning.
Yes. And you're a mom, too.
Yes.
Yeah. So you catch yourself like, I just did exactly the same thing that my mom did.
Exactly. And I'll message her and I say, I just told my son this. I sound like you.
What about you, Alicia?
I think it's funny because I think that you learn to appreciate the generations above and below just by living life. And the older I get, I learn to appreciate that. I think it's funny watching my daughter parent, because every time, he does something crazy, I'm like, the baby, like, what are you doing? And I remember my mom being that way. And I'm like, what? I didn't get away with any of that. And you're acting like, and now that's me. So I think that sometimes it's funny, but I learn to just appreciate the different perspectives. And as I grow, take pieces from each generation. Like you can learn from younger generations. It's okay. You don't just get to hold all the knowledge simply because you're older than someone. So I think that's important, a key to take from younger generations, even from the baby. I love the fact that he is just kind of free. And sometimes you get a little bit more uptight as you grow older. So it just reminds you to seeing little ones reminds me to have a good time, enjoy life, and actually contribute. I think that I volunteer more since he was born because I want to make sure that the world is a better place for him growing up when I'm gone.
I love that. Aw. So tell me what are some things that you do to keep your family bond so strong for the future women in your family?
We do things together. I'm very close with my mom. Her and I get together all the time. We meet together for drink of the month at one of our favorite places in the Quad Cities. So, we've had that tradition for a couple years, and establishing those traditions, they're important as we get older. I grew up as an only child. So as of now, I have one son, and I want him to be able to have a close bond with both his father and I, the way that I had with my mom growing up. And I want him to be able to see those things and have all the different, outfits, like the Valentine's Day outfits, the St. Patrick's Day outfits, the Thanksgiving outfits, have those kind of traditions. I want him to be able to learn these things and, take what he wants to, growing up, or leave what he doesn't like in the past, things like that.
I think it's so cute that you guys, every month you guys meet up and just go have a drink. I love that. And, it shows too from how it changes from generation to generation, because way back in the day, bonding would be doing laundry or, household chores.
Yeah.
Going to the grocery store.
We're out.
Right. Like, going to get some drinks.
And maybe a Target run after. You never know.
You never know. What about you, Alicia?
I think just being in contact, no matter where you are in the world. I mean, we just happen to both be in the same area. I lost my mom about 5 years ago, and I realized the small little things that were important that kind of kept us bonded, and we continue to kind of do those traditions. We usually do something on her birthday or just to remember her. But because back when she was alive, it was the three of us all the time, the three musketeers, as people would say. And we still do those things in the community, the fashion shows and the the community events. We still go now as a duo, and when the baby's older, he'll come too. But I think that you have to make a conscious effort to keep your family's bond. You have to be in contact or get together and do something and create new traditions, because I know some of the traditions that we had when my mom was alive, I realized how valuable she was into bringing that tradition. So now it's my turn, and I have to be the one that creates tradition for the family.
Yes, I love it. So I know we have mother-daughter relationships, but do y'all have like cousins relationships? Because cousin relationships matter too. Like, do you guys like do something with like your girl cousins? And I know you're an only child.
Yeah.
So do you have those bonds?
My cousins don't really live in the area, but I do talk to them frequently, as often as we can.
Yeah.
So when they are in town and we get together for our family events, it's like time never passed.
I love that. And then, so that's for like the younger generation. What about like your generation? Do you guys?
And we did more so, I don't know if I want to say pre-COVID, but because we used to get together a lot, usually the holidays. And again, it doesn't matter if we haven't seen each other for weeks, months, years in some cases. When we get together, it's a party and we have a good time. And I miss some of that. I think that some of that has kind of gone away after COVID, when people started realizing that they didn't have to come together in the big groups. I'd like to bring that back around, because I do miss, we used to have like a cookie exchange during the holidays that got a little wild with the female members of the family. The male members of the family benefited because the women would go home and all these cookies would be at home. So I would like to see things like that back around.
Yeah, that's coming. They hear you. So tell me one piece of advice your mother gave to you that you still apply to your life today. One thing every day you're like, you know what, this is what mama said.
No one can take your education from you or your intelligence. And that is something I think about almost every day. I'm always looking for growth and looking to learn more and looking to share the things that I know with other people. And the experiences that I've had this far and the knowledge that I've gained this far, I know that no one can take that from me. So as long as I keep expanding on it, it's just more things that no one can take from me. And that's one of the most valuable lessons that I learned from my mom and even from my grandmother. I grew up in a household where education was so important. And we all went to college and had our education in that way, but also had other enriching experiences outside of the classroom that shaped us to be the women that we are.
That's so beautiful. Good job, Mom.
And I got that from my mother. My mother was an educator. Her original career was as a history teacher, and then she worked at the community college for a while, and towards the end of her career, she taught GED. So she really pressed lifelong learning. She used to tell me that you can't give away what you don't possess. So that was a way of encouraging me to go out and have all kinds of experiences, volunteer, get involved in the community, get a certificate, grab a few degrees. I like to collect a little college degree here and there. But so that you can give that knowledge away. And it wasn't all about formal education. It was about continuously educating yourself. One of the best experiences was getting my mom an iPhone and letting her have all of this. She kept saying no, and then I just got her one. And then she was like, there's so many doors unlocked. And Google everything. Every time she would think of something, you could just Google it and find out. And then it would like lead her down the rabbit hole of finding out things, because again, learning, educating yourself, and being able to pass that on was such a big thing in my family. And I hope that I've passed that on, that will continue to be passed on, just to get out there and experience the world so that you can share that with everyone else.
I love that. It sounds like your mom was a magnificent woman.
Yes, she was.
Well, ladies, thank you guys so much for sharing with us a little bit about your beautiful family. And thank you guys for being amazing Black women and for joining Real Conversations.
Thank you for having us.
And before we go, we'd like to remind you that this program is brought to you in partnership with Together Making a Better Community at the Lincoln Center. For more information on TMBC and the various events that it has, you can go to their website or Facebook page. That's going to do it for Real Conversations in the QC. I'm Redrick Terry. We hope to see you next time.